Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello Sobat Hebat Matsa Surba. How are you today? I hope all of you are happy and stay healthy at home. Welcome back to Matsa Surba YouTube channel with me, Mr. Herharyadi. Well, in this occasion, I will present materials for 8th grade students entitled Asking for and Giving Advice. Well, today's activities are the first one, responding the situation, and the second, reading aloud, the third, identifying, asking for, and giving advice, responding problem cards. The first activity is responding the situation. Okay, I'll give this situation is related to the material that we will discuss for today. What should I do? Okay, listen carefully. I'll give you the situation like this one. I am a student. The situation is in online class. In the middle of lesson, I have to submit the assignment, but in the same time, I have a trouble with my connection. What should I do? Okay, please give your response in Google Classroom, yeah? Okay, let's jump to the next slide. Okay, today we are going to learn about asking for and giving advice. And for the learning objective for today is you are able to give advice for some problems given by the teacher. So in the end of this lesson, I'll give you some problems and I hope you can give your advice to that problem. Alright, the next activity is reading aloud. Here, I hope you can read this dialogue after I read this dialogue for you, so repeat after me. Okay, Mike, Julie, my stomachache is getting worse. What should I do? Well, you should take a medicine, don't you think? I took it, but it's not working. Do you have any other idea? You should try a tea of boldo leaves. It works just fine. Seriously? Okay, I'll try it. Thanks. Well, students, after reading aloud this dialogue, let's identify which sentence that express about asking for advice or giving advice. Okay, here we go. This sentence, what should I do? What do you think? This is included in asking for advice or giving advice? Okay, this sentence is included in asking for advice. What should I do? The next sentence here is you should take medicine. Don't you think? What do you think about this sentence, students? Is it included in asking for advice or giving advice? Okay, the sentence is included in giving advice because there is a phrase here, you should take medicine. Okay, let's see the next sentence. Do you have any other idea? Okay, this sentence is in the form of question, so we can conclude that this sentence is asking for advice. Well, the next sentence, you should try a tea of boldo leaves. Yeah, this sentence includes in giving advice. You should try a tea of boldo leaves. Okay, should and shouldn't. We use should and shouldn't to give advice or talk about what we think is right or wrong. because today we are going to learn about asking for and giving advice, so it is related to this word should and shouldn't. Okay, the first one, you should. You should means something like I think it is a good idea for you to do it. And you shouldn't, it is means something like I think it is bad idea for you to do it. I'll give you the examples here. You look tired, I think you should take a rest for a while. But if you want to give advice in the form of negative, you can use shouldn't. You shouldn't worry about the test tomorrow. You have studied hard. Okay. Well, here I'll give you the example about the sentences asking for advice and then giving advice. Here is the table. In the left column here, asking for advice, I'll give you 4 sentences about asking for advice here. The first one, what should I do? What's your advice? What do you advise me to do? What do you suggest? Well, for the right column here, giving advice, I'll give you some examples. The first one, you should blah blah blah. You should avoid eating sweet. Why don't you blah blah blah? And the example of the sentence here, why don't you go to the dentist? Next, I advise you to blah blah blah. And the example here, I advise you to clean your room. And the last one, you had better blah blah blah. You had better brush your teeth regularly. In the next slide, I will give more example about asking for and giving advice. Well, 5 ways to give advice. Actually, there are 5 ways if we want to give advice to someone. Okay, the first one is by using a modal verb. Here we use should and ought to. And the second way is by making a question. The third one is put yourself in person's position. The fourth way, make a suggestion. And the fifth way, advise in a stronger way. Okay, I will explain one by one in the next slide about these 5 ways to give advice. Okay, the first way, how to give advice to someone here by using a modal verb. As I said before in the previous slide that we can use should and ought to. So what is the difference between should and ought to? Okay, should, ought to. Actually, the meaning of this modal verb is the same. Should, ought to, seharusnya. But in the way we use this word is slightly different. I'll give you the example in the form of sentence here. You should do more traveling. You should do more traveling. And for ought to, the example here, you ought to do more traveling. So can you guess what is the difference between these 2 sentences, should and ought to? Okay, I will show you the difference. As you can see above, after should, we use an infinitive without to. Infinitive here is do. So do here without to. But unlike should, we always use to in ought to for giving advice. You can see here ought followed by to. You ought to, it's always used to. You ought to do more traveling, but there is no to after should. Please remember this explanation about the difference between should and ought to. Okay, next, this is the second way if you want to give the advice to someone by making a question. The examples here: why don't you do some more tidying? How about doing some more tidying? Yeah, actually the meaning of these sentences are quite the same. But the first sentence using why don't you, and the second sentence use how about blah blah blah. Okay, with the question why don't you, we use an infinitive without to. The infinitive here is do. So do without to. Why don't you do some more tidying? And then when we use how about to make a question, we use a gerund after it. Gerund here is doing. Yeah, gerund doing. So gerund means verb ing. We use a gerund after it. Okay, please remember this explanation about the difference using why don't you and how about blah blah blah. Okay, the third way, if we want to give our advice to someone, we can put yourself in the person's position. Okay, the example here, if I were you, I would travel more. Remember to use an infinitive after would and not to. To use an infinitive after would and not to. After would here we use infinitive. Okay, to make this negative, put not after would. The example here, if I were you, I would not travel more. If I were you, I would not travel more. So don't forget to put not after would. Okay, students. Okay, the next way about giving suggestion is by make a suggestion. The example here, I would suggest doing more of an effort. I would recommend doing this instead. Okay, use verb ing after suggest or recommend to explain your advice to the listener. So, if you want to give our advice to someone by making a suggestion here, you can use I would suggest or I would recommend. And the second explanation here, to make this negative, put not before your verb ing. The verb ing here is doing, so it will be something like this. I would suggest not doing more of an effort. I would recommend not doing this instead. So don't forget to put not before verb ing. Okay, the last way, if we want to give our advice to another person here, advice in a stronger way. Yeah, sometimes we need to give our advice for something important. So we can use this way by using the word had better. Had better. You had better start working on your homework. You had better finish this assignment in time. We use an infinitive after better to explain our advice and add not after better to make the sentence negative. And the example here, you had better not go abroad in this pandemic situation. So don't forget to put not after better. Don't forget to put not after better. Okay, understand, students? Okay, in this meeting you have learned about asking for advice and giving advice. I hope after you learn this material, if your friends have trouble with their daily life, you can give your advice to your friends. Okay, don't forget to give your response. In the beginning of this video, I already give you the situation right, so don't forget to give your response in Google Classroom. And for the next activity, there is problem cards. I will show you the problem cards in the Google Classroom also, so don't forget to do this activity. I think that's all for today. Thank you for your attention, students. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.